welcome back to 16th RC Tank Workshop. In the last video I was working on the Panzer IV, adding the electronics. If you watched that video you might remember I had some problem refitting the gear case. I thought it was a problem with the length of the shaft or the spaces provided. I got onto Armortek and they promptly came back with a reply and drawings. I've reassembled the motor mounts in the correct way. I've tested and everything fits perfectly now. In this video I'm going to remove all the loose tools on the vehicle, take off the upper deck, take off the tracks and all of the wheels and get the hull turned over so that I can paint underneath. I'm going to paint the underside of the hull and the lower hull. I'll be using an airbrush. I'm not an expert with airbrushes, please don't be too critical. This is the airbrush I'll be using today. It's a Paasche Talon. I've got the size 2 nozzle and needle fitted. I think that's a 3mm. This kit comes with a 3mm and a 5mm. It's not a bad airbrush, haven't had many problems with it. You can get much better airbrushes, but this one in decent quality airbrushes is a reasonable price. I've had no problems with it. I've used it for quite a bit on smaller models. Here you can see I've got all the wheels removed from the Panzer IV. The sprockets have been removed. There were a lot of machining marks here, so I've ground them down with my power file and went over it with the Dremel just to make it look more like a cast. Here you can see the basic road wheel. You can see quite a lot of machining marks on that as well. It looks a bit odd. I'm going to use the Dremel to put more of a cast shape and try to round off these sections here a bit. Make it look more like the original. And then onto the lathe and we'll try to put a little bit more detail around the edge of the rim. I'm only going to do the outside wheels that can actually be seen. I'm not going to bother with the back ones. I haven't glued the tires on yet. That'll be a job for later. Another thing I want to do while I have the wheels off, at this stage I think it's important to paint the underneath and paint the lower hull. I'm quite happy with the level of detail in the lower hull at this stage. These bump stops were made in the workshop. I need to get some rubber inserts to fit inside them. A lot of the cast numbers, the small access hatch, these parts here in the front of the bogies, they were all shop made. So I'm happy enough with the level of detail there. Also we have the Zimmered finish. There's quite a lot of detail going on underneath the Panzer IV. Normally I wouldn't bother too much. This one has quite nice detail. I won't do any weathering underneath because it'll be driven, so it'll weather itself, but I will do some painting and shading. So the first thing to do before I flip it over, I'm going to remove all the tools at this stage, all the small fittings. Some of these components were never fitted down properly, so there will be some more work to do. And I think that's enough removed. So next I'll flip over and we'll have a look underneath. Here you can see the underside of the Panzer IV. Lots of plates screwed on. so it'll add a little bit of interest. There's a lot of shape going on underneath the Panzer IV, so it'll be interesting to put a bit of shading on here at least. So let's start a bit of shading. Now we have some dark shading on the underside. Still lots more to do. The paint I'm using for this was just some model colour from Vallejo, camouflage black brown, and it's well watered down. I'm going to start putting some chips. Not going to go overboard on it, it's underside, so it's not going to be seen much. We'll get some paint on the underside as well. Now I'm going to start highlighting a little bit. I don't generally put a lot of weathering on my vehicles, but this one I'm going to try to put a little bit of extra into it. So bear with me, it's a learning process for me as well. I'll be using a number of products. If you have any queries on them, just leave a comment. I hope you're enjoying the video if you've got to this point. Please remember to hit that subscribe button. The channel's moving very slowly at the moment. I need all the subscriptions I can get and all the watch time, so please watch other videos as well. In the next section, I'm going to start working on the side of the lower hull. This is where most of the weathering effects will be. I've reverted to Tamiya XF60 acrylic. The Vallejo paint was giving problems. Lately I've been using some Tamiya lacquer paint and it's very good. I might try using some of that on the upper hull, give it a test. Most of this detail won't be seen once the wheels are on. So here's the lower hull, painted. I want it quite dark underneath. I will be applying some rust marks and streaking, some weathering. The tank is flipped over again, so I can do some highlights from above now. So next we're going to have a look at putting some rust streaks, and I'm using this product. It's from AK Rust Streaks. It's an oil-based product. To clean it off, I think really turpentine would be better, being oil-based, but I don't have any, so I'm just going to use alcohol. So you just put your streaks where you want them. You're going to be washing them down with the alcohol. So I'm putting streaks where I think they'd come from the screws underneath. Maybe from a few scratches in the hole. And now I'm going to let that dry for a little while, not too much, maybe 10 minutes, and then we'll brush it through. A few minutes have passed. I'm using one of these wide brushes. And I've got some alcohol on the brush. I'm just going to drag it down. If you wash too much off, you can always go back over it. I have a coat of matte primer over the airbrush work, so it is protected. And that's it. You can add as much rust as you like. I think that's enough. I'm now going to try to add some more rust effects. I'll be using this product first. This one is called Old Rust. And I'll be just applying very small amounts to places where I think rust might gather. It's an alternative product to the one I showed you earlier. Into these crevices. Let me get some into this area. Next, I'm going to add a lighter shade. This is just called Standard Rust. Just for a bit of contrast. You normally fix these pigments with thinners using a brush, let it flow on, but it's a bit more awkward getting this on a sideways angle. So I'm going to try using the airbrush with some thinners, just at a very, very low pressure, and we'll see how it goes. I got it about 10 psi. That should hold it. There's alcohol in this thinner. It's a homebrew version, so it'll dry very quickly. And once it's dry, I'll spray over again with some matte clear, and that should seal it in once and for all. I'm just going to apply a light dusting of Graveyard Earth from Games Workshop. It's one I like to use for like an earth tone. But just a light dusting, it should tone things down a little bit. Games Workshop paint seems to be a bit more prone to clogging, causing tip dry. The easiest thing to do, a lot of the time I spray without the cap on. Just clean off the tip with your fingers. I think this is helping to unify the colours a little bit. It's also a mud tone, so it's quite good along the bottom. We'll apply a little bit of the same to the rear. I think this will help blend the colours in. And that should be enough. So again, big thanks for watching. Here we have the Panzer IV, turret back on, top deck back on. You can see the amount of weathering that's gone on. In the next video I'll start work on these road wheels, removing some of these machine marks. I'll get all the wheels painted and weathered, get them refitted. Hopefully get the tracks painted and weathered as well. And then we can start work on the upper section. Thanks for watching. Please remember to help support the channel by hitting that subscribe button, and also I'll put a video here and another one here, so stay subscribed. Hopefully see you again soon for the next video. I'll put some photos up at the end.